What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am Shadow, and this is Spotlight with the main man, Josh Bain. We are in the era of Bain. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well, man. How are you today?
I'm enjoying life. The weather's nice today, finally, and I'm enjoying it. I seen you had your true Patriot champ, so I had to bring out my championship, baby.
Yeah. Nice belt. That's good. That's good. Mine's right here. Got to keep it beside me at all times, you know?
So I'll start off by asking a simple question that gets the mood going here. What made you decide to get into professional wrestling?
Well, I was, I've been a lifelong wrestling fan, and I saw a year and a half ago that there was an advertisement for a school in North Bay, which is where I'm from. And the school's called Energy Y Pro Wrestling Academy, run by Dan Jarrus. And I'd always wanted to be a wrestler. Like when I was a little kid, it was one of those dreams, like you watch wrestling and you want to do that. You want to be up there and you fantasize about it and you play at it and all this stuff. And I've been very fortunate in my life with the work that I've been able to do. And I talked to a friend of mine, and at first I thought, I think I'm a little too old for this game. I'm turning 34 next month. At the time I was 32, and I thought, I'm a little too old, so I passed on it. And a couple days went by, and I sat with it, and I sat with it, and I sat with it. And I called my buddy up again, and I said, look, if not now, never. And I've lived every one of my childhood dreams at a professional level, except for this one. So that was it. So then I made the call to Dan, and me and a couple buddies, we went in and we joined. We did a tryout, and then he accepted us into the class.
Okay. So I could see you're an avid collector from the background there.
Yeah.
What is your favorite piece that sits back there?
Okay. So I got some cool stuff in here. I've got I don't know if you saw the Suicide Squad that came out a couple years ago, the James Gunn one, but I've got like a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Starro the Conqueror up there. So that's a really rare one. So I like that one. I got a Ninja Turtle wall over here. I got some Power Rangers. I got the Princess Bride figures. I'm a big collector. A lot of books, big extensive collection. But I think it's probably that Starro that's the crown jewel. That's the rare boy.
That's wicked. I'm a Funko collector and a wrestling figure collector, so my collection starts to pile up really quickly.
Yeah. It started off with a couple shelves, and now I've got a whole room in my house that's just like, this room is just wall to wall memorabilia, like stuff.
So you've done Northland for the better part of a year and a half, 2 years now.
Yeah.
I know from promos that I've seen, you've gone and done work in other promotions.
Yeah.
Taking away Northland, because that's home. What's your favorite promotion to go to, and who have you wrestled that is on your bucket list?
Oh, I didn't get into this expecting a lot. I really enjoyed working for Jim Dugan. He was a really cool guy with GCW, and he treated me really well. And he brought me on to do a small tour. We did a couple shows with him, and the first night he had me go out and just have a quick match with one of his boys, and then we were going to Sudbury, and he tossed me in a marquee match against Chris Masters, and I thought that was pretty cool. And so there's a guy in Masters that I grew up. He was one of the guys that was big when I was at the height of my fandom, right? So that was really cool. At Northland, I've gotten to fight. I faced Eddie Dennis. From he was big in NXT UK, and right now he's producing for the WWE now. I fought him about a month before he announced his retirement and that he was going to become a producer, which I like to lay claim to his retirement. Like, he didn't, I didn't beat Eddie Dennis, but I laid a beating on him harsh enough that he rethought his career trajectory, and he decided. And then I got to lock up with Trent Seven, and that was pretty cool too. So a year into the business, and I've worked Dennis, Seven, and Chris Masters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only a few years younger than you're turning 34 this year, you said.
Yeah.
I just turned 32 this year, so I mean we're in the same era of fandom
Yeah.
here. So seeing guys like Chris Masters and stuff come down on indie promotions is huge. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not any bigger than us, if you will.
Right.
GCW, just for reference for people watching this live, is Great Canadian Wrestling. I believe it is called here.
Yep.
Not the GCW, the home of the hardcore death match.
No,
Not
no.
that one. We're not talking about that one.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd love to be there though, but
Actually, you know what? I misspoke. I'm so sorry. I'm working GCW this weekend, which is Great Canadian Wrestling. I fought Chris Masters with Dugan booked me on Canada's Wrestling Elite, CWE. I'm sorry, that's a slip. My apologies. If Dugan, you hear this, this is my correction now, man. Book me again. I'm sorry, brother. Sorry, I got GCW in the head because that's what I'm doing Saturday.
So you've been a fan your entire life, as you said. Your favorite event that you've gone to, whether it be WWE, I mean, we're old enough for WCW, ECW, AEW, Impact. What's your favorite all-time event that you've gone to?
Well, just a couple weeks ago or a month ago or so, whatever it was, me and the boys took a trip down and we went and checked out Forbidden Door. So we got to see that Ospreay Omega match.
Oh my God, dude! I was there
yeah,
as well.
That was great.
It was mind blowing.
Yeah, it was an awesome show. We also took in the night before, so we watched the collision the night before, and then we did Forbidden Door. But I think even though I loved that, I've gone since starting training. I've gone to a lot more wrestling shows in the last couple of years, just going on trips with all the guys. Like we've kind of formed a really good tight-knit group, the guys that train together. We really look out for each other, and we regularly go to shows together and stuff. So I've seen a lot more wrestling in the last 2 years than I did all my life. But when I was really young, I went to a SmackDown in Toronto during the Invasion time, and I remember like I loved it. But my favorite show I ever went to was a WWE house show when I was really young, and the way that I felt in that house show, it was just like being a part of that crowd. It was just unbelievable. And I remember like coming out, like I was like 9 or 10, and I remember coming out of that show. Maybe I was a little older, I don't know, but I was just a little kid. And I one of the things that made me the happiest is that William Regal had just become the commissioner. You remember that time?
Yes.
Yeah. And I started a "We Want Foley" chant when he was out doing his promo. and that made like I was just like the proudest kid coming out of there. I was like, I made that happen. Like that was me, and that like I hung my hat on that forever. Like I started a "We Want Foley" chant. But the main event of that house show ended up being Regal, Big Show, and Triple H versus Taker, Kane, and Steve Austin. And as a little kid, I was like, that's it. There we go. I've seen
that's
like,
your WrestleMania moment right
that's
there.
That's my WrestleMania right there in that house show. Yeah.
So growing up in North Bay, your love of pro wrestling, but you're also an actor, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
And so why, if you don't mind telling us a little bit of the acting that you've done, I mean, I'd love to hear it.
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up actually in Wasaga Beach, Ontario, which is just a little bit, it's about an hour outside of Toronto or so. And I moved to North Bay when I was a teenager. And I went to school here. And then I went to college. I stayed in North Bay for college just because, I felt like when everyone's graduating and they're looking for what they want to do post-secondary, everyone wants to get away, but I just got here. And there was a good acting school here. So I went to that acting school and I graduated from there. And then immediately I started, I made a deal to myself that as soon as I was done with school, I was never, ever going to take a job that wasn't in the industry. So from that moment, from the day that I walked across that stage and got that certificate and got that diploma, I never worked a day outside of the field of the entertainment industry. So I started a theater company. I'm a writer. I've written, I think 7 of my plays have been professionally produced, and I tour a lot of my shows. I have a theater company, then we tour around Ontario. And our mandate is to bring high quality professional theater to regions and communities that would otherwise have to travel to see something of that level. So that's what we do. We go to smaller communities and we bring big shows there instead of them having to go seek it out in Toronto or something like that. So I've been doing that for that company's been running for I think 6 years now, and beyond that, I do a lot of film and TV. So I've been on a lot of stuff that stuff that I can't talk about. There's a big show that I just finished filming, but I'm not allowed to say what it is. But it does involve space, and it has a long lineage. So I did an episode of one of those things, and they're coming out soon, but I just can't say the name. I'll get in trouble. But I've been on Letterkenny, I've been on Hudson and Rex. I've done a bunch of stuff, a lot of movies, and that's how I pay the bills. That's what I do. I act, I write, I direct. That's what takes care of my bills. I'm very fortunate to be able to be a working actor, and I'm very fortunate to be able to have a schedule as an actor that allows me to pursue this other passion so late in the game.
So with Letterkenny, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of our fans are American, so they love that stuff.
Yeah.
But anybody from Canada or at least Ontario knows Letterkenny is based off Listowel, Ontario.
Yeah.
And it's funny if you ask the locals, not the imports, that they do not like it.
No,
because it's made.
They feel like it's making fun of them.
I mean, it is.
And it is, but it's loving, right? I mean, that's where these guys are from too. The guys from Letterkenny, especially Jared, or Jared Kiso. That's his community,
Yeah.
So he's poking fun at his family, himself, right? But I think people take stuff personally.
I remember a few times I've asked a few locals that, and they just kind of like shunned away from it and just shit on Jared for it. And I'm like, it's because they never mentioned the town for obvious reasons.
No. They that's Letterkenny's the work.
So are you a horror fan at all when it comes to like movies or books or?
Yeah, I like horror. I like the occasional scary movie. I just did. It's doing really well on the indie circuit right now. I just did a movie called Astonishing Tales of Terror, the Roctopussy, which is like a intentional B movie, like Attack of Killer Clowns from Outer Space style kind of film about this like giant rock octopus that gets uncovered in this cave, and I'm one of the main villains in that movie, and it's doing really well right now. So yeah, no, I play in horror too.
Are you a Batman, Joker fan?
Oh yeah, absolutely, big Batman fan. I've got figures everywhere, but Batman and his rogues gallery is the only characters that've got like a dedicated shelf that's just all of them. I got 2 shelves for Batman and the villains, and then everyone else gets to share.
So when I'm trying to word this now, because I'm not allowed to ask stupid questions.
That's right. I'm coming to you, bro.
So this one was brought to me by someone just before we came on the air here, but they want to know how you eat corn, and I'm supposed to ask that.
Oh, okay. All right. I want to know who sent that in. Because I eat it sideways. Not
most people do.
Typewriter, yeah. But if I had my guess, I'd say whoever this was, they eat it the long way. Right, and they've been they try to get me to do it like them, but it's not going to happen. I'm typewriter corn man, right? Can I ask who's ribbing me? Who did it?
His name is. It's none of the guys it's one of my guys.
Oh, is it?
His name is Jaxbo.
Oh, Jaxbo. Okay, well the I don't know if you've seen them out there. They're great. They're going to take Ontario by storm. They're starting to really pick up steam. But the Digglers.
Yes.
Diggler brothers, yeah.
They remind me of the Young Bucks.
Those guys are great. They're not big Bucks fans.
Just their style is like.
But their flamboyance, their character work. Yeah, I get why you make that connection. But those guys, especially, we always rib each other with that.
Sammy in the chat wants to know if you're married.
I've got a. Who wants to know?
My Sammy in the chat.
Oh, Sammy. Well, I've got a girlfriend, but I mean, there's no ring, but it's pretty close.
Hey, I get that. So your company
Sorry,
for
Sammy.
acting, sorry?
Sorry, Sammy.
Sammy's a sweetheart. She'll be fine. She's obsessed with Randy Orton.
Fair enough. Who isn't?
Um, so your company that you own for acting, is that the Fringe? Is that you? Is that your stuff?
No, no. On the Edge Fringe is an organization that runs out of North Bay. But my organization, my company is called the Proscenium Club.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought I'd ask that because I know that the Fringe, when you guys were here recently, was what you guys were doing. So I just wasn't sure if that was something that was tied to you.
Oh no, that was an arts contract that I was on to come and help with that festival. Yeah.
So in the wrestling world, going back to wrestling here,
Yeah, absolutely.
not that I'm good with covering any topic because that's what we are. We're sports and entertainment.
Sure.
But what the wrestling side, do you prefer to be a heel, or do you, like, I can see you love the heel work, but or do you like to be a face?
Like I think that the heel stuff is I have a lot of fun with it. And when I first when I debuted, I debuted as a baby face, and um and that went over fairly well. And just had a couple matches in that way before we kind of really established my character with a heel turn. So they just gave me enough of a baby face kind of debut so that the turn meant something.
Right.
But and just the way that it was done, Dan, we did it over a couple Northland shows, and it was really smart the way that Dan did it in a way that really quickly made the audience care about me. And so since then I've just been working as a heel, and I love working as a heel because I love going out there with someone and figuring out how do I get you over? Like what do I do, right, that makes you come out of this looking a million, win or lose? That's always my goal. Is that the baby face that's coming in and working with me needs to leave better than they arrived, even if I'm the guy picking up the W. I find that element of it really fun. I love the idea of like figuring out how am I going to structure a match. How am I going to tell the story? What's the purpose? What's both guys need coming out of this? Because it's different what their need is going into it, and then trying to tailor something, figure out something, especially on the fly, especially when we're calling it in there, figure what that is, and the best way to tell
Dan had huge praise for a lot of you guys when I spoke to him last week about in-ring calling.
Yeah.
And that was huge. Like that's for me and you growing up watching wrestling, we learn more as we go now, but back then that's what they were doing. They're not always choreographed to a T. They're just calling it in the ring, like guys like Austin and all of them, right? Like that's why they were the ring generals.
Yeah.
But like for Dan, he had such high praise of guys like yourself and Tommy and Rusty for what he's been doing so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the praise of Zandra. Like
Zandra, just, yeah. I mean, and we can't sleep like Jimmy Spite, man. That guy, he's the best of us in my like Zandra. She's unbelievable. She's going to be signed in no time. I guarantee.
Like I'm not trying to refer back to Dan here, but Dan spoke something like such a proud father of all of you guys and what you guys are doing. Like I tried to get him to put himself over, and it was just about you guys.
Right. Well, I'll put Dan over. I'll do it. I'll put Dan over.
I've heard great things about him, but he just wouldn't. He wouldn't budge as much on himself as he would you guys and Northland itself.
Yeah, he's doing something really really special, I think, here. There's a really strong base here, and he's booking. Northland's kind of operating like an old territory right now, where there's consistent talent. The storylines are able to grow in a way that makes sense and doesn't feel rushed, and the audience is starting to really get invested. And for an indie fed in North Bay, Ontario, right? Like no one would think to sell over 500 tickets to their last big show. That's pretty wild. You know, not a lot of indie shows are doing 500 tickets.
No.
You know, when we did a small show that was just with the students, he brought in a couple people to work some of the students, but it was advertised as just a showcase for the students. And it was 2 weeks after the last big or the big show. We sold that thing out at the big show with advance tickets.
Wow.
Like it's just moving in a really cool way, and it's really exciting to be a part of it. And Dan, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and that's just a tribute to Dan and what he believes in, and you guys as students and wrestlers, and the community is rallied around you, and it's great to see. And I'm sure you guys have people coming from around Ontario as well, just coming up. And
it's the whole thing is Dan doesn't suffer fools lightly. He doesn't have a lot of space for people that want to treat the business as less than he sees it. So what that attracts is a type of student that is really serious. And not everybody's walking in there looking like Chris Masters, right, physically.
right.
But everyone's walking out of there looking legit. Because that's what Dan teaches, is how to look legit. Because he makes you legit. Like me and Jimmy went to for the title in I think it was February, and Dan said to us, he said, just go out there and make me proud and apologize to each other back here first, because make everything look real. And if something's real in there, because that's the price of trying to make it look real, just tell each other you love each other here first. So and that's it. And that's it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to Dan teaches in a way that I think instills a respect for the business. And I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better teacher. I feel like I really lucked out. Yeah, I mean, he's a little rough around the edges at times, but that's just part of his charm.
I think that's the old school mentality in him. He wants to teach you the right way, not the sloppy way.
Yeah, and and he doesn't, but he listens to like he's the guy. He'll see something, he'll come in, he'll be like, this thing that I've been teaching you guys, yeah, well, we're gonna do it another way now. Oh, okay, why? Well, because I talked to so and so and so and so, and they gave me a new kind of outlook on it, and now we're gonna adjust it. It's like, oh, okay, like he's not stuck in his ways to the point where he's unwilling to hear what other people have to say, which I think is the mark of a good leader, right? It's not necessarily that what he says is gospel, but what he says is how he wants you to do it there. But he's not saying that if you find another way to do it that's better for you, that works, that looks good, that's safe, that you can't do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ginger in the comments wants to know if you have any matches on YouTube he can go back and watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some early, I think some of my first matches are on YouTube. I think if you search Josh Bain, you'll find it. I know that there's some stuff that Northland's getting ready to start uploading the catalog of the last couple shows up online. So I know that'll include the match with me, Jimmy, and Trent Seven. That's coming up. That's a banger. And me and Jimmy for the championship before that. There's a great bet with Tommy McLeod that'll be up on there. But if you search me, Josh Bain on YouTube, I know that there's a couple of my really early match. I think like my second and third match are on YouTube right now.
I believe, and I could be wrong, because you've been with Northland for 2 years now, right?
Just about, yeah.
I believe you were here in my town last summer with Rusty and some other people.
Yeah.
Trying not to give away where I am exactly.
Sure.
The show that you just did on the 15th here in July.
Yeah.
So that should give you an idea of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think I had a conversation with you and Rusty last summer. I know I talked to Rusty. I just couldn't remember if I had a conversation with you.
Yeah, it's possible.
We were down at the lakeside there.
Yes. Yeah, I was there. Yeah, Rusty's a really outgoing guy. So when we're doing stuff, he does all the chatting, and then I I'm kind of more introverted in those
So
situations.
I'll give you a one up in this situation. So you have one over Rusty here. So when we were there on the 15th, which was my daughter's 4th birthday, we came to watch you guys.
Happy birthday.
And my daughter didn't want to take a picture with Tommy and Rusty, but she did with you.
Yes, I
So
remember that. Yeah.
she was excited about that. She wants to know when we're going back. And I believe, as far as my schedule allots right now, I should be up in North Bay for the 26th show.
That's awesome.
I plan to come up and take in some of the homegrown as opposed to on the road stuff.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's set up to be a really good show.
Yeah, I'm excited to come. I'm gonna talk to yourself and Dan and stuff, and find out some recommendations on where to stay, because I've never been up to North Bay.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
So that match that you had here on the 15th against Rusty,
yeah,
the crowd was just eating you alive, but you were just throwing it right back at them, and I was like, damn, it was so good. Like, your in-ring work as both competitor and just verbal is really well, and I really enjoyed it. Even, and like that old man at ringside just yelling at you, "Shut up!" And it was just great. Like, telling kids to shut up, and that to me, it was just great.
Like with a place like that where that's to me, like I love the old school stuff, right? I love watching back old NWA stuff and all that, and you listen to these guys talk, and they talk about everybody on that has the benefit of TV these days. It doesn't matter if you're not a main guy, or if you're just starting off. As soon as you're out there the first time, you've got the power of familiarity, right? So we don't have that. I can't go out there and if I'm not worth my salt, if I leave North Bay and I can't go out there and figure out how to get over right away, that community didn't know who me or Rusty was at all. They didn't know who we were at all. So in my mind, that's my job, to try to get heat before the match even starts. So when I went out there and I started chirping the crowd as Rusty was making his way in, as soon as I heard that one kid yell "Butcher," that was it. Because now I can go in on that kid and start egging him. Don't you do that? Don't you say his name? Don't you cheer for him? And now all of a sudden the whole place is chanting "Butcher." We haven't even talked yet, or we haven't even touched yet. Sorry, they have no idea who we are. And all of a sudden the whole place is lit up. And I think, like, in that moment, it's like that's the stuff I really love. How do I work? Like, I'm the heel, but how do I get the crowd to work with us, right? To give us that fire, to make it feel special. They don't know us from Adam. We haven't even locked up yet, and the crowd is all chanting his name. That, to me, like, that's a win.
That's a credit to both of you. I mean, and you more over on that, just by that one cue that you heard from a kid, and you were able to zone in on that, which drew heat from around the arena, right?
Oh yeah, and I'm standing across from the right guy, because there's something about Rusty. He's got such charisma, and people, like, he's this this big guy that everybody just loves. Like, there's something about him that just makes you want to root for him. So he's got that innately, and he knows how to play that really well.
Yeah, he does. He's a big guy like me, so I mean, it's inspiring to see some guys like my size go out there and do that. For myself, I don't see myself ever physically wanting to wrestle, but I'm more of like a mouthpiece, because that's kind of what I like to do. I like to talk shit.
Right.
So I figure, why not?
Oh, I'm the host now. No, hey, I lost you for a second.
Yeah, my internet, it's fun living in the middle of nowhere sometimes.
For sure.
So tell me more about growing up in North Bay, because a lot of our listeners are American. They don't understand what it's like to grow up in small communities within Canada, because they think we're just maple syrup and ice.
Sure. I think, when I moved up here, I was really surprised at what North Bay ended up having to offer. I went to a really cool art school. Got to do a lot of awesome stuff, and my teachers were great. And then, I think there's the reason I stayed in North Bay when I left school is that there's a tax break here for film and television. So
I didn't know that.
yeah, so they come in, and they can get so much percentage back on the first 2 million or whatever that they spend, they can get back. So it's a way for things to raise their budget, or to kind of extend it, because they get some of it back depending on their northern spends. So as everybody that I knew was moving to Toronto, I thought, you know what, I'm going to hold tight, because this makes me easier to hire because I'm here. So really, like, what's great about North Bay, the reason why I'm bringing this up and going back to that, is just because why this place is awesome is everyone just thinks, when they tell them, oh, I'm from North Bay, they're like, oh, is there snow there? Well, it's July, so probably not. But the summers are warm, the winters are cold. It's a great little city. You're never too far from some beautiful trails or a lake. So I think that's it. Like, I'm not a guy that likes noisy all the time and busy all the time. I like that I can go 20 minutes to the left and be in the woods, or I can go downtown and have all the amenities that you need, amenities that you need in a like an urban center. There's a lot of art here. There's a lot of cool stuff in North Bay, and I've enjoyed my time here.
I grew up in Toronto, so like when I moved up north or south or east or west, however you want to look at it, it was a nice change, because I just can't do the busyness anymore. As I get older, I have 4 children now, so like I live on 8 acres of land right now. That everybody knows that. My kids are free to roam around my yard, have fun, and not have to worry about somebody driving into them and stuff like that. And that's huge for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something about the ability to, the small town aspect is, I don't know, I feel like there's more of a community, and this is not like, there's a lot of people that I know that love the city life, and that's where they are and that's where they want to be. And I'm not slamming it at all. I'm just saying that I prefer the quiet. I prefer this, but I think North Bay is a nice middle ground. I think that's really my thing. That's my point.
I don't ever remember, like from my memory, because I've traveled across Canada before the age of 20, which was a really cool experience to do by myself. But like, I don't remember ever stopping in North Bay. I'm pretty sure I've been there, but not long enough to like take in what North Bay has to offer.
Sure.
So I'm not quite sure. Like I've heard from yourself and now Dan and others, oh, North Bay is a great place to be. Would I move there? Probably not, because that's a little too north for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
I like being close enough to do things that I like to do. And with hockey season and stuff, it's just easier where I am. But right. I definitely get your where you're coming from when it comes to the sense of community in small towns. It's just built different, like you can walk down the street and it's friendly and it's, how are you? And, oh, how's your kid today? Or how's your mom? Or, and as opposed to the city where you bump into somebody and you're like, well, this guy's going to smack me.
Yeah. Well, I think there's, I think everywhere right now in Ontario has got a little bit of worry who you're going to run into on the street energy these days. But I think that's a epidemic that we're just watching happening. But we don't need to get into that. But yeah, North Bay is also it's a school city, right? So there's a college and a university here. So there's also an influx of people for 8 months of the year that come in, and so it's not the quietest, but it's definitely easier to get to the quiet.
Now, with wrestling, have you gone west in Canada for any events?
No.
I've just started really taking bookings outside of Northland.
Okay.
I've only done a handful of shows for other guys, and that was really coming from not seeking it out. I've got my career, and in my mind, I was like, this is just something I'm doing. I'm going to do it as long as it's fun and as long as I'm enjoying it. And I'm very happy just working for Dan. But then some calls started coming in, or some guys needed somebody, and my name came up, and now I'm on the mindset, that I'll keep saying yes until it's not fun. So I've just really started doing shows and taking bookings elsewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my next question, wrestling related.
Sure.
Who do you try to model your style after, and why?
Okay. So I think that when I first started doing stuff, like, I think being self-aware is super important, and I think that that's something that I maybe have, that I come to a little easier or more naturally because of my career as an actor, is that I know my type, I know who I am, I know my build, and I know what I'm good at. Would I love to wrestle like Bret Hart or Dean Malenko? Yes. I'm not built that way. So, I look at guys like, I look at Hunter. Triple H was one of my favorites as a kid. So I grew up watching him. So I try to look more towards guys like that for inspiration, even though that style isn't my favorite. That's where I think I live. A guy that like Gunther or a Sheamus or something like that, a brawler. I think though that, like, ultimately my biggest inspiration, even though that it's not necessarily the way that I approach, like, the kind of moves I do, or the way I try to work, is I always default back to Austin. What would Austin do? Because even though Austin wasn't necessarily the best in-ring technician or anything like that, you never ever doubted what he was doing, that it wasn't real, or that he wasn't invested in it, that he wasn't out there trying to go on a war with someone. So I think that that's the biggest thing for me, is that as I kind of, even though stylistically, what moveset, what kind of what shape do I want my matches to kind of have, I look at guys like H or Gunther, those kind of guys, like a Harley Race. Even when I look back, those older guys, like, not the biggest guy out there in the ring, but he's not small. He's bigger than a lot of the guys that he comes across. I'm 6'2", 235 pounds. I'm into the heavyweight zone, but I'm not a super heavyweight, and I'm not deep into the heavyweight either. But I'm bigger than a lot of the guys that you count around the indies, right? So I'm not going to go out there and try to do a bunch of stuff that makes the smaller guys not, like, if I go up there and figure out that I'm going to start throwing a moonsault, well, then the guy that needs to rely on a moonsault because he's only $175, it's not as special anymore. That's selfish of me. I'm not going to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that I can throw a good moonsault. I'm just using that as an example, right? Who's the roster? What's your place on the card? What's the story you're telling? So trying to figure that out, where I fit, that figures out how I'm going to work. But so stylistically, though, no matter what the moves are that I'm working on, no matter what my style is, that engagement level, that tenacity, that venom, making everything look legit, that's it. That Austin, that's the guy.
Okay. So
if that makes sense. Did I answer your question?
No, it does. Like, you like to model yourself as not like the overall super big guy, not the super small guy, but you're right there for when
I'm
it
right
happens.
there. Yeah.
Sammy asked a great question. How do you balance family relationships to pro wrestling and acting?
Like this, like just juggling all the time, 100 balls moving at all hours. Look, it's not easy. Like, I'm used to the hustle, though, right? Like, that's my whole life has been that, because that's the deal, my goal when I decided to start pushing and making my way in the industry was, I'm going to get good at as many things as I can. If I'm going to learn how to do lighting, I'm going to learn how to do sound, I'm going to learn how to do graphic design, I'm going to learn how to stage manage, how to direct, how to write, how to everything. So no matter what team is in the room that I'm walking in on, as soon as I step through that door, they look over and like, there he is. That's the guy we need. So that sense of creating that hustle of having my hands in as many pots to make this living work. that's just been part of my life. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I work 7 days a week and I don't take any breaks and da 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 da. You make time to do what you need to do. I make time to breathe. I make time to unwind. But as an artist, as a working artist and a self-produced guy who does his own work and stuff like that, and television, film, and all that, you work weird hours anyways. So my day off one week might be Tuesday. The next week I might not have a day off, and then the next week it might be Sunday. And then jamming wrestling in that. If you decide it's important, to kind of bring this all around and answer the question, if you decide it's important, if you decide to prioritize it, you will find the room for it. So as far as relationships, family, all that kind of stuff, decide it's important while you hustle.
I think that's valid. Damn, that was deep as hell.
I get one a day.
That was deep. No, but a lot of guys in your position too, starting in the indies and going up, they can't handle that. And we've seen many careers go on a trajectory and then it's just gone.
Right.
And the fact that you have such a core balance of how you like to do things and drive yourself is really a tribute to your mental fortitude.
Thanks, brother.
What is the greatest advice you ever got, whether it be professionally or just in life?
Greatest advice I ever got. One of my teachers that I had in college, he told me, and this is, I think, leads into my whole career. His name was Rod Carley. He just retired this summer, but he said to me when I was young, he said, look, if you want it for yourself, just make it happen. And that sounds overly simple, but if you allow yourself to grab onto something that sounds that overly simple, if it's overly simple, it should be overly simple to do. And as soon as you accept that it can be, you're good. If you want something for yourself, just make it happen. And I try to do that with everything that I have an interest in.
Yeah, I feel that. Like when we started off the top, me and a good friend of mine, that was our drive. Like we wanted to cover some wrestling. It started off as just a hobby. Now it's kind of slowly starting to turn into a career path, and we're enjoying it. We just branched into bot shots and chair shots and become Rivet City Radio. Awesome. So I get it. Like we're gravitating in the right ways, and we're just going for it.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years in professional wrestling, acting? I'll give both answers if you wanted to do.
Yeah. Like I never got into acting with the idea that I wanted to become a household name. I just wanted to do what I love and make a living at it. So, I mean, that career path has been going really well, and things have been getting busy. And so I'd say, where do I see myself in 5 years? I'd say just continuing down this road, right? Just continuing to book gigs and to make money and to pay the bills and to enjoy the adventure. In wrestling, I don't know. I hope that I'm still physically able to do it when I'm nearing 40. I hope so. I hope I've got 10, 15 years in me to do this. But we'll see. I'm the true Patriot champion right now. 3 to 5 years, King of the North. That's
okay. I'll take the conservative answer.
Yeah, but I mean that. Like my whole goal right now is like, I love Dan. I want to be as valuable to him as I can in the time I'm available to do this, the time my body lets me do this. So, I want to get to a point where it makes sense for Dan to look at me and be like, that's my main guy. That's where the Bain belt's got to go. I want to be that guy. I think that if you get into, look, I understand my place on the card. I understand my role. And if my role is to go out there and make some young baby face look like $1 million and get on my back and have him pin me at the end of it
And I just do that for the next 10 years. Great. I'd like my role to be more valuable than that. Right. So I'm going to keep working towards that.
Now let's say Dan says, all right, Josh, I'm pushing you out the door because you've done everything you can here.
Yeah.
You get two choices. You're going AEW, you're going WWE.
Where you going? WWE.
Is there a specific reason that you go WWE over AEW?
Yeah. Look, I think AEW's got some of the best. There's some of the best workers in the world there. I see a lot of stuff on AEW that doesn't necessarily fit in with what I think wrestling is or should be all the time. There's a lot of stuff in there that bothers me. However, there was a lot of stuff for a lot of years in WWE that bothers me. And bothered me, and it does still. But I think WWE is on a better trajectory right now. The things are getting really good. I'm watching again more intently than I've watched in years. I'm enjoying what they're doing, and I don't know. It's also the thing I grew up loving. I mean, it's right there. Like, you see it. There's the belt. That's it. There's a lot of cool stuff in AEW, but I'm a WWE guy, and I know that might give me heat in the modern, indie crowd or the smart fans out there. The AEW for life. I'm gonna get hate in the comments. I went to Forbidden Door. I went to Collision. I loved both shows. It was great. I just like WWE better.
I don't think you'll get heat. I think, at least in my circle of the internet community of wrestling, people are more accepting to the fact that you can watch both, or you like one or the other. Now, when you go down to, I guess now it's called X. It's not Twitter anymore for some stupid reason.
Yes, whatever. When did that happen?
I don't even know. Do we just exit now? Like, I don't know. I just don't. But, there's some people, and I spoke to Dan about this, and I want your opinion on it. But in a time where the wrestling world is internet centric,
yeah,
how do you guys go about ignoring the noise? Like, I know, obviously, for like what you guys do, it's a smaller promotion compared to others. We've all had that conversation already. But let's say that Northland was on the map hugely as AEW and WWE. How would you go about ignoring the criticism from the outside in?
Okay. I think that there's always validity in hearing criticism. I think that there's always validity in listening. If you have a plan. So this is a thing, right? When I direct a show and I get actors at the end of it that they don't like getting notes, right? But you're doing it for the notes. And in wrestling is you've got the notes sitting in the audience responding to the show live, right? You can hear what the audience is responding to and what they're not. So when you look at wrestling and I apply my knowledge of film and theater and acting to it, think about it in terms of this. If I know where I'm going, will justify the things that people are worried about, the things that people are criticizing right now. And I know in the back of my head, well, yeah, you just wait, because where this is going is great. I'll stick to my guns. If I don't know where I'm going, if I'm just kind of throwing things at the wall, if I'm just trying to figure out what's happening, if I'm just trying to make my way, then maybe when they're responding to something, I should listen and pivot. It's okay to take criticism, and it's okay to pick and choose which criticism you take. And I think that too much of our modern sensibilities has this idea that no, because I love what I'm doing, or because I love this, or because I deem myself as, I know I'm good, I know how hard I work, I'm not allowed to be criticized. And I feel like a lot of people kind of have that mentality, especially in the entertainment world. But the reality is, like I said before, we're doing it for the notes. I want to get better. I'm not going to get better and not listening to anybody.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like, and within our podcast here too, like, I'm just referring it because that's where I can kind of connect with you on that. I'm not a wrestler, but like in our podcasting, if there's something like I'm doing this interview with you, I'll go back with some guys later and be like, okay, well, where could I have made this better? You know what I mean?
Sure.
because I'm by no means, this is like my second interview now that I've done, or third. And by no means am I saying I'm a professional at this. I'm enjoying the conversation, and I appreciate the time that you took out of your day to come on and to do this. But like, I know that I'm not there yet. But like, it's a good stepping. It's a good, thank you. It's a good stepping, to learn and take that criticism. Like, I've had conversations with one of our guys, Will, and he's like, well, here's what I would do in this situation. I'm like, okay, cool. I might not utilize it, but I'm listening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm visualizing, okay, well, what am I doing next? So I guess in a sense, like, we're one and the same on that. Like, we're just always looking forward to how to improve.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so I guess to bring that all around, I know your question was specifically like if Northland is one of those big shows, like how do you deal with, listening or deal with the criticism? What that is, as I think that just like to sum that up as best of anything, you take what you think will be useful. You never close your ears. You never stop listening. Take what's useful, use it. All right. And if it's not useful for you, then discard it. And that's it.
Simple answer. Simple. I like it. All right. Some more question, not about you. Your favorite storyline in professional wrestling right now?
Oh, I think that hands down, if anyone says anything other than the bloodline, they're lying. I mean, all of a sudden, these guys are doing tremendous business. People are tuning in. You've got everybody's emotionally invested. The performances, like everything's been great. These guys are firing on all cylinders.
I asked Dan this, and I'm going to ask you this, but you said that you watched a little bit more than he has, because he's been telling me he's just getting back to watching it. Would you have booked the bloodline any differently, or do you think it's on probably the best run we've ever seen in professional wrestling?
I think it's fantastic. I would have booked it differently.
Okay.
But I think it's great. I'm also not one of those guys that like sits there and like, well, I would have done this different. So that's crap now. It's great. It's awesome. But back a couple months ago or whatever it was, I had a different idea.
Please elaborate if you want to, of course.
Well, if you remember back when when I think the nexus point of my idea where everything would change for me is all around where it was when Sammy was still involved and when Jay hadn't accepted him yet. Right. And I thought that at that time, it would have been really, really interesting for that to lead up to see my only issue with this whole thing is the world title.
Okay.
My only sticking point with how they've done anything is that belt. I can't even pronounce the name of this thing that Roman's carrying anymore. It's too many titles combined together and blah 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 blah. Only for them to introduce a new world title anyways, right? And I thought, man, my idea instead of combining it and moving on was that if they struck when the iron was hot with Sami Zayn, and if Sami had gone out there and he won the Rumble, okay, and then Sami comes back and says, and Jay's all angry about it, and Sami comes back and tells Roman, no, I won it, and I'm not going to take the match. It's the ultimate proof of my loyalty to the bloodline. So you've got a night off at WrestleMania, right? Or whatever that is. And then Roman, because he's got this Macbeth kind of thing going on where he's paranoid of everybody close to him. That's been the whole thing. He says, oh, you think I wouldn't beat you? No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. No, you think I couldn't get the job done? No, I won this so you didn't have to do, right?
Best thing. Sorry.
Yeah. So how cool would that have been if it eventually led to Roman Reigns saying, no. Next week, my gift to you, you're going to use that Royal Rumble. You're going to do it at whatever, Elimination Chamber, Fastlane, whatever show was in between. I can't remember. And we're going to do that then. And so you get Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns. And Roman says to him, you bring it. You bring it. I want Sami Zayn. So then we have the match. Roman tells the Usos to stay out of it. What ends up happening, at some point, it looks like Sami might get the job done. So Jay comes in, and he goes to attack Sami, right? But Doesn't work out. And he ends up leveling Roman with a super kick. He's like panicked. He turns around. Sammy hits him with a haluva. Sammy's sitting there like he doesn't necessarily want to cheat to beat Roman or whatever, but all of a sudden Roman's climbing up from that super kick in the turnbuckle. Sam makes the decision, hits the haluva kick. 1, 2, 3. Sammy takes one of the 2 titles. Because the crux of all this is at that time, the Royal Rumble, why would it be for both belts? They make him choose which title. So he takes one of the belts, right? Then the end of the week, they address the whole situation. You think that Roman's going to turn on Sammy and they're all going to attack him, but he loses it on Jay, rips into him. Okay, he did exactly what I told him to do. He gave me everything he had. You were supposed to stay in the back. You're no longer the right-hand man to the tribal chief. You're the right-hand man to Sami Zayn. And he forces Jay to be subservient to Sammy. And then slowly, Sammy starts acting like Roman because now there's 2 world champions in the bloodline. And eventually you could have had that switch go where you could have turned Sammy back into where Sammy's best because he kind of is cooling off now as a baby face. It's not quite there. You would have capitalized on the babyface pop that he would have gotten with winning the title, but then you turn him back into the sniveling heel that he's best as. And now there's a weird thing where Roman told them to be loyal to Sammy, and they are. And now you've got a weird power dynamic in the bloodline where you got 2 heads that Sammy you could start referring to them. You know, a table has 2 heads, Roman.
Right.
And then that opens up for a whole, you could do, the stories from there could have been unbelievable.
Damn, I mean, just that made me like, I want to go back and just do that. Like,
yeah, like how cool would that have been?
My thing was when it came to Sammy facing Roman, which was a hell of a match at Elimination
Yeah,
Chamber.
they did great.
Like, it was cinema, 100%.
Yeah.
I would have, and I understand why they didn't. I guess in the long haul of things, I understand why they didn't do it. But I would have given Sammy that championship night. Yeah. It kind of instills WWE. This would be long storytelling, saying, "Here, we fucked up with the Montreal screw job, so here's Sammy, the hometown kid, going over big."
Yeah,
I get why they didn't. I mean, but we're Canadian, so we want to see good things happen to our boys, right? So, now, who would you tag with if you were given an opportunity? WWE, AEW, Impact, MLW, no matter where you're going, who do you want to tag with?
The Sulphur City Center, Jimmy Spike. He's one of the guys up here. I know that this is a cop-out answer, but Jimmy and I were originally looking like we were going to be a tag team, and then things worked out differently. We both ended up being singles, and we've been rivals. We've had this really heated rivalry. Man, I'd love to tag with that guy. We just really get along really well. Dream match kind of stuff there out there. Like who would I like to tag with? I don't know. Who I'd like to tag against, like all time. Man, I'll take that. Yeah. Like I think where they were and what they were doing in the mid 90s or whatever, Edge and Christian, the Hart Foundation, those I'd love, man, how cool would it be, to be able to work against those teams when they were a team, right? Like Brett and Jim when they were a team, Edge and Christian when they were a team. I'd love to have both those matches at some point, maybe with Jimmy.
That'd be cool as hell.
Yeah, like we'll have to wait for that to happen in a video game or something because it's not possible. But man, like all time, yeah, that's great.
I mean, no, that's a great answer though. I mean, you have your boy that you're always going to support and wanted to be your tag guy, which I get. So it's not a cop-out answer in my opinion. I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah.
I'm taking Royal Rumble out of this because I feel like that's a lot of people's cop-outs. But any dream match you would love to participate in, and who would you want to go against? So, like, I'm talking anything. You can bring somebody back from the dead for this. Like, just
sure. It's not going to be a stipulation match. I'd love to work. I mean, Bret Hart. I think when a lot of people think, oh, who would you
whenever anyone asks or we talk about it, like who's your dream match? Who do you wish you could work? And everyone kind of always picks someone that they find themselves, or that they hope that they're some sort of proxy for, right? That they hope that they line up with in style. But I don't think that's the right way to think about it. You know, I'm not going to sit and be like, oh yeah, I'm a brawler who picks people up and puts them down really hard. I'd like to work a brawler who picks people up and puts them down really hard. No, who of all time I think would give me my best match ever? It'd be Bret Hart, no doubt. No doubt that guy'd give me my best match of all time. So that's who my answer is.
Hey, I mean, mine is Kevin Owens if I was to wrestle.
Fair enough. Hey, Kevin Owens is brilliant. Kevin Owens is great. And I know
I love that we're seeing Kevin Steen, but WWE version now.
Yeah.
I think it's about time we finally get the real character.
Yeah. And I know when I was, first starting a lot, that's a lot of the first comment that I get. And I don't know if it's because I don't know if people think we look similar or anything like that, but I get that a lot, that I remind people of Kevin Steen or Kevin Owens now.
When I get my beard going right, my hair right, I get it too. So we're coming up onto the hour mark here. Where's the next event? I already know this, but the people don't. Where's the next event that we can see you wrestle at?
Okay, yeah. So this Saturday, I'm doing the GCW show in Sudbury at the it's part of their Sudbury Con convention. GCW's putting on a show there. Eric Redbeard, formerly Eric Rowan, is going to be on the show.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that he's going to be up there. That's the Sega Beach Comic Con and up there one, right? He's doing those both.
Yeah. So this one, there's one Saturday, August 5th.
Are you going to wrestle him? Or are you going to try to?
I don't know who I'm going to wrestle yet. I'm probably not going to wrestle him. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe
I think you should just throw down the challenge, like
right here. Not? Yeah, Eric Redbeard. You want to test your mettle against the main man? I'll shave that off your face. Stupid piece of crap. There. Answer that.
He's one of the guys, because I'm a big Wyndham Rotunda fan, aka Bray Wyatt. He's one of the guys that I adore. It was him and Brody, and I just love them both along with Wyndham. So like I was hoping to meet him. Unfortunately, my schedule's not going to allow me to do that this weekend.
It is what it is.
But
but he's around, right? I know he's been doing a lot of shows up here, so maybe he'll get another chance, or maybe he'll come closer to you.
Maybe. So with that being said, I want you, if you don't mind, to cut a promo on The Will Gray in his 36-hour-long subathon.
Sorry.
Will Gray.
Will Gray.
Yeah, I just want you to go just throw it at him because he thinks he's a great man by doing this 36-hour subathon.
All right, Will Gray, you're doing a subathon. Listen, you had the main man, Josh Bain, on here talking about pro wrestling with Shadow, and you're doing your subathon, sitting back, letting us do all the work. You lazy trash. I can't believe that you can sit back and let us hardworking sons of guns carry your weight across this 36 hours. You know what's going to happen after this 36 hours is done? They're going to replay this hour on loop. Why? Because you had the main man and you had Shadow. You're over here on my screen. That's why.
Now, that being said, my name is Shadow. Josh, please tell the people where we can find you and watch your entertainment.
Hey, I'm the main man, Josh Bain. You can find me at Bain Wrestling. Look me up on Facebook, on Instagram. Check out northlandwrestling.com. Gonna be all over the place, carrying this belt and kicking ass.
Will says, how do you get kicked off his own network?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Will.
But I appreciate the time. Like I said, when we conversed back and forth, in kayfabe, you're a heel, but you're an awesome gentleman, and I appreciated the conversation. I was expecting a lot more shit talking just from the promo,
Oh,
So
sorry.
I thank you. No. I appreciate that. But I do have one more question before we get
Yeah.
going here. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Look, I think that there are some questions about this world that are bigger than us, and I don't know if I am the right person to speak to this. However, I would say that if you've got bread on either side and you hold it with your hands, it's a Sammy.
Thank you, sir. And again, make sure you guys check out Northland Wrestling coming up in August. They have a homegrown show here, and you'll love it. Make sure to follow them on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, wherever they can find them. They're there. Make sure to give them a like and a follow. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.